Okay, picking back up with the universal plate. I want to basically go over one detail with the universal plate that I may not have clarified that is important. The universal plate, this is a diagram of it just as it sits right here behind this gear. If that gear weren't there, you got two outer holes and two inner holes. Well, these arrows represent, with this being the ocean side and this being the inside, that of course being top and bottom, just as set. Those holes, for example, this arrow shows that this outer hole on the restaurant side is to the high side. This outer hole to the ocean side is low side. And the inner holes. In other words, this just is a diagram that shows how that plate should set. For example, if that plate were to go in any other manner, which it's only got one other direction it could feasibly go, then that would take, and instead of, as you'll notice, the original gear, when it's set in there to gain the correct line to flow out the side of the beam like that, that meant these two bolts right here, they weren't exactly at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. The inside restaurant side was more like 9:30 to 3:30. So in that, the universal plate has that same tilt. And if that plate goes in opposite of that tilt, then instead of that gear having the correct line out the bottom of, this is your wood beam, out the bottom of that wood beam, if it set in there, it could possibly, using the wrong holes, it would have an incorrect line and go out at an invalid point like such. So you just got to make sure that you observe the fact that your plates have a right and a left thing going on, and always mate them up to the gear in a fashion to where the outer hole on the ocean side is lower than the inner hole, represented by, like what I showed you, is lower. It's at 3:30. So with that point being made, that will allow that universal plate to go in and line up. Now, here's a very major point that I'm going to bring up that we found here. Getting both of these holes to line up can turn out to be a huge struggle. There is a compromise on that. You can bolt the back hole right here and skip this one. What will happen with that is that will, for the meantime, it'll throw that shaft through that hole, and with only one hole mounted, be it, in your case, it'd be the inside, would be the one you would choose if you were going to use one. If you couldn't get two to line up, you would want to use the inside one. That would put this so that with one bolt there instead of two, it would naturally, because of weight, want to fall. Well, that shaft inside of there would cause it to hit right here, and it would hold that in place to where you'll see in another video I'm coming up, the bracket that's going to actually hold this outer gear to the wood beam. This mate up here and this bolt up here to your wood beam through this bracket provides enough strength to offset the use of this second bolt. So you really can come in with one bolt here and let the rest of the configuration strength come from the outer bracket, because essentially instead of having two in this manner, you'll have your second offset here. It may be that both of your holes line right up and it's no problem, but if they don't, always use the inside hole, hang it from just that one, and then as you set this hardware up for the outside, you'll find that its support to the side of that beam will negate the fact of this bolt being missing, should that be the case.